Hey, very good morning and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first session. So I think we have waited a few minutes for everyone to join. So let's get it started. So, so like last session, we were doing the demo part, by the way, right? And there we understood certain roles and responsibilities of a DevOps engineer, isn't it? Now the roles and responsibilities we talked are all the tasks should be performed through automation. That is one thing. And the second thing is the app releases should be, second one is infrastructure management with IAC, like all the infrastructure also to be created through code and all. Okay, infra management is going to be a part of the task or part of the role. And the next one is application smooth releases with CI/CD. So these are the 3 points we talked about. And aligning to this, we are going to learn everything is what we mentioned yesterday, right? So that's where now, first of all, let's understand you're going to do end of the day, whether you do the performing the task with automation or you manage the infrastructure. But end of the day, your goal is to release the applications very much smoother. Okay, the third point, in order to achieve that, the first 2 points to be achieved by the way. But eventually, like third point is the major point that you're going to and also do the things as a part of your role. Now, let's start from here, by the way. So now we wanted to do a application smooth releases, right? Now, how can we release the application smoother? Okay. So, or what is this application? Now, for an example, uh, you're a user, let's say. Now, if you're a user, now these particular users is actually going to access some sort of an application. Assume that so they are accessing some application. So, for an example, you're accessing a web page called as google.com, or let's say you're using this page only, Miro. Now let's say you're accessing miro.com. That means end of the day you're hitting some server, isn't it? You're hitting some server, and this is guy is called as miro.com, or this is Miro company server, or basically Miro application server, so where it is hosted, and you're actually accessing miro.com. Okay, that means you're hitting this and you're getting that on the web browser, isn't it? That means this Miro software is hosted somewhere, correct? This Miro software is hosted somewhere, by the way. It may be one or many servers. We'll go there. That does not matter. Let's talk about very basic things. It is hosted on some. Uh, it is hosted on some server, and that some server. Okay, so that some server. Um, okay, you're trying to access it. Okay, that is fine. Now what you're actually what actually doing is, so on the other side, by the way, so there is a developers or engineers. Now whoever is a developer or engineer, whoever is making the code, by the way, so now what they are doing on the other side, so what they are trying to do on the other side is, now your job we're talking about, release the application smoother. So now we are actually going to release the software very smoothly to here. Okay, so you are an engineer, so you're actually trying to, now you're an engineer, and you are actually trying to take the code which is given by the developer again. So assume some other guy, that's okay. So developer and QA team is actually going to give us team in the sense like persons who is going to provide us some code, by the way. So you take the code from them. All right, you take the code from them and you're going to release that to the live machine, by the way. So these are live servers. Okay, we can call it as a live server. Okay, the server where it is live, or also some people call it as Some people also call it as prod server also. Okay, so live servers or prod servers are the servers actually, which is actually, so serving the customers. But now this is the story. Okay, in the organization, let's say I'm in the Miro. The Miro developers are there. I'm an engineer, and I'm going to take the code and I'm going to host it on the server. So now while I do this, okay, while I do this, two things I need to ensure, by the way. Okay, so what are the two things that I need to ensure is, so first thing is, okay, first thing is end user should not, okay, while I do this particular job, so two things I need to ensure. End user should not face any failures. Okay, end user should not face any failures. Okay, our release process, our release approach should be done. Okay, so our end user should not release, so should not face any failures. Let's put like this, during release. Okay, release in the sense like you're releasing some version, right? Okay, so failures during our changes, our new app features release. Okay, so they should not face any of the challenges. And the next one is our next thing is, let's put like this. Once release, it should not have any downtimes. Okay. Now, two things, by the way. So one thing is, while you are doing this particular job, okay, while you're doing this particular job, so you should consider about two things. Okay, while you're actually doing this particular job to this, so you should consider these particular things majorly. Okay. Yeah. So end user, while you release the things, by the way, so end user should not face any issues or face any failures, by the way. Someone actually making a changes to Miro.com. Now let's say they're changing some, adding one new button here or adding some new icon here. Okay. So adding some new drop-down feature here, whatever it is they are doing, end user should not actually face the impact. Okay. So that is how they are supposed to do that. And that's what we're talking about. Now, once it comes to live also, we need to ensure it is running 24/7 without any issues. Okay, so that is also your job, by the way. So your practices, your methods should allow you to do that. That is the overall idea. Okay, so these are the two roles and responsibilities. Now, these two roles and responsibilities, end of the day, is dealing with your servers. We're talking about some servers here. Okay, so end of the day, so these are pointing to uh, these. Okay, so this is important. End of the day, it is actually pointing to these, by the way. All right. Now that means, so to start with, end of the day, our application is going to run on the servers. And that's where we need to know about something about servers. Okay. So servers is what we wanted to start with our understanding. Okay, done. So these are the, okay, end of the day, servers is a one to have, right? So that's why the first week of the training, we're going to talk about servers. Okay, so servers in the sense like, again, if you want to run the server, by the way, then server operating system will come. So far, I mean, if you are not aware, by the way, if you are, so using the desktop, So you're dealing with a desktop operating system. Now there are server operating systems as well. Okay, server operating system. Okay, so this is what you have. Now this server operating system, okay, so which is certain operating systems which is famous. And apart from on that, by the way, on that, so you have Linux is major. Linux is a major operating system inside that. So a widely used one. Okay, so this is a widely used OS, by the way. Widely used one is this. All right. A widely used um, operating system is Linux. Now I'm not talking about my thought process, by the way. Okay, let's understand whether Linux is really used or not. Okay, maybe today world actually people are not arguing, but like let's say a few years back, so people come from different backgrounds argue that Windows is also widely used. Okay, so things like that are there, by the way. So just let's get on to the market news, and so or basically Wikipedia usage of operating system. Yeah, there is a usage of operating systems. There is a Wikipedia web page. So they're having, I mean, they just put it like, so different surveys, different analytics, whatever it is. So they offer the worldwide usage, by the way. Now, if you see this worldwide device shipments, Android is widely used, and this data is also to 2019 data. Okay, so I think this is fine. Okay. So everyone agrees that there is no doubt Android is widely used than Apple one, right? So we don't bother, right? So that agrees. Now here web clients, by the way, web clients on the data published on to the 2021-22, Android is leading there. So web client means like so where you use Chrome and all. So Android, ultimately the devices higher is Android. Ultimately, the usage also will be Android web clients. Now, next one is desktop and laptop computers. Okay, desktops, by the way, Windows is leading. Everyone knows that, right? So Windows operating system is widely used in the desktop side. Okay. Now, the same way, I would like to go with the server operating system. Okay. So then I would like to get the results, by the way. And the server operating system are big servers, by the way. So now if you consider, now back in days, there used to be an operating system called as Unix, and that slowly got replaced by Linux. It's almost like 100%. Okay. So server world majority, I mean, there may be 1%, 2%, that's okay. But the majority of the operating systems goes with the Linux only, not the Windows. Okay. That you need to understand. And uh, yeah, so that's what you need to understand. And even Windows also changed their strategy around uh, in 2014 or 15. They changed the strategy once their CEO changed, by the way. So because earlier they were, so against Linux, by the way. But once Satya came into picture, so it was like, so Microsoft loves Linux. It's a major strategy that, Windows or Microsoft has taken. So which has put their company in a very big position now, by the way. Okay. Because Linux is a very important, um, a very important are holding very important features, by the way, especially to run the containers and all. So today you heard about containers, okay, Kubernetes containers and all, right? So maybe every one of you went through the syllabuses and you maybe heard about this. So this is possible only with Linux only. It's a Linux feature. Okay. Now Microsoft, there is no other option for them other than going here. Okay, in order to adopt the technology. So that is where um, I mean, they already burned their fingers with the Android, by the way. So going against Android and building the Windows phones and with Nokia partnership. So they ended up with a massive loss. Okay, like Nokia and Windows both together, by the way. So that's where, okay, they changed the strategy completely and they wanted to go with Linux. So the Linux is the major one. So no doubt in that. And so server world you completely see is Linux. Now in the Linux, by the way, so Linux is not an operating system, by the way. Linux is a software. Okay, so that is going to break the software and hardware. Okay, now what is this is basically is this is a little history, good to have understanding. Now there is a Unix box, by the way. Unix. Now only Unix alive is Mac OS. Okay, Mac machine, Apple Mac. Now Apple Mac, by the way, I can purchase Apple Mac hardware and I can run only Apple software only. I can't run Windows. But you buy a Dell hardware, you can run Windows, you can run Linux, you can run BSD. Okay, different operating systems you can run. Okay, Unix is nothing but a software plus hardware shipped by the same vendor, and those will work with integrated only. Okay, you can't they don't define that particular piece as individual. Okay, so that is the difference. And okay, so now Linux wanted to um, now there is a okay, there was a movement in the industry that, so we wanted to go out of Unix because Unix is too costly. Now let's just say my MacBook itself, costs couple of thousands of dollars. But whereas if I go with the Windows machine like any Dell and all, maybe the same features I can get it for I mean, maybe less than $1,000, around $1,000. I know to spend like, $3,500 for buying this particular uh, hardware, by the way. Okay. So that is the one we're talking about. So too costly. Apple phones also, right? So they make it too costly because it's Unix. Unix means software and hardware made by the same person. You get the ultimate performance, best performance you will get it. But the challenge is cost, too costly. Maybe everyone can't afford that. Now we're talking about 2024, talking about the cost. Go back like 30, 40 years back, by the way. So that time Unix is even too costly for everyone, by the way. So that's where there is a movement has started, which is called as GNU. Okay, so GNU is a movement, okay, which is telling you GNU, not Unix. GNU stands for a animal reference. So GNU is an animal. Okay, these guys just goes in. These guys just goes in. What do we say? Groups only. They live in community. Okay, they live in communities, but they just goes in group and just inspired from that community. Okay, so GNU and NU stands for not Unix, and it is started by Richard Stallman. Richard Stallman is a software engineer, and he started GNU movement, by the way, in the market in 1983. Okay, so then some people have started, so coming to him and all, and I mean, so it became a decent community, but they couldn't achieve. They are working on a software that can break this that plus layer. Okay, they couldn't actually break it up. Okay, but there is a but there is a college student who has came up with that particular software. So which is his name is Linus Torvalds, and he announced that he worked on the software that breaks the software and hardware. Okay, and eventually he published on the internet, and so he got an interaction with GNU, and he liked the GNU, by the way. Okay, GNU idea, and they started collaborating, by the way. Okay, and till today, okay, these are the guys who is going to provide the Linux operating system to the market. These are the guys who offer Linux. Okay, so they together make a product, and that is called as Linux, and that Linux also they named it as the GNU Linux. Okay, so GNU Linux is what Okay, so the market is today is using Linux is GNU Linux. You have other Linux also, I think, which is not so famous and so popular. No worries. Okay, so GNU Linux is the major one. All right. So this is what is okay, the history by the way. So now the Linux came this way. Now Linux is not an operating system. These guys are not making operating system again. Okay. Now they're just releasing a software that can break the hardware. I mean, that can sit in between software and hardware. Okay. That can run any hardware, any software. That is the idea. Okay. Now what happens is from there, by the way, so from there, the companies are there who is actually going to take this, who is going to take this particular Linux, and they are going to, okay, create an operating system. Now there are two major companies who is doing that and, competing even, which is, Red Hat. Red Hat as a company which released the, Linux, by the way, and Debian is another community. Okay. So these are the two guys who is actually doing that, who is taking the Linux, okay, and actually releasing it to the market, by the way. So these two Linuxes are so famous in the market. Maybe you heard about Ubuntu or something like that. That is from Debian. Debian has many families, and Red Hat is the one. Now, Red Hat family is a kind of famous in the enterprise world. Okay, so this is famous in the enterprise world. That means companies and all like more about Red Hat. And Debian is more in a developer community. In a developer community, Ubuntu, Debian is so famous. Okay. Now, even in fact, actually, Debian was the first operating system before Red Hat, and Debian was having Debian was having Debian was having the this one, what do you say, the demand in the market actually. So the usage was also Debian was the one uh, which was going well in the market, by the way. Okay, so Linux OS distribution list, if I go with Linux distribution list, so there's a big diagram will come. So this is a Linux distribution list diagram. Now inside this, if you see this, Debian actually started in sometime in they are telling 1993, mid 1993 it was started, Debian, or even 1993. But whereas Red Hat comes at what time? Red Hat comes almost at 1995. Okay. So during this time, Debian was actually good actually. But however, what happened is in the market that time was Richard Stallman, okay, accuses Debian or Ubuntu something. So here, Ubuntu or something. Yeah. So this is the statement he has given. Okay. So during the quick competition while going on, so then he says that, so there was some sort of a malware being done inside Ubuntu machine. Okay. So here something he has written, malware, some virus, something he has written. Uh, where is Okay, so Richard Stallman, so slams Ubuntu over Amazon integration, calls it spyware. Okay, but even before to this, also there is something else actually. This is little latest to something, but this guy actually made a statement, and that causes little backstep to backstep to um, usage of Ubuntu, by the way, in the market. And the next thing is okay, so and the next thing is also is. Linus Torvalds still uses Red Hat core project, by the way, which is called as Fedora. So he still uses Fedora in his personal laptop. Okay, so whatever the reasons, by the way, so the Red Hat became slowly the leader in the market. Okay, so Red Hat is the widely used than this. Okay, you can start searching in the internet, like, so in enterprise world, which operating system is widely used. Then generally you'll find the answers, which is Red Hat. Now we're talking about Red Hat. Red Hat is a company, by the way. We're not talking about the operating system of Red Hat, because here is again a big list, by the way. Now Red Hat company started. Okay, Red Hat company started. They released the Red Hat Enterprise Linux at this point of time. So what year it is? So sometime in 2002, mid 2002, their Linux operating system has been came into the picture. Okay, so but Red Hat project has been, so forked by many people, and they were having, before Red Hat Linux itself, there were many people who forked it. Okay, there are different names of operating system. Is having the full history of operating systems. Now Red Hat, and from Red Hat, by the way, a lot of people actually uh, is is actually forking after that. So one of that guy is CentOS. You'll find out CentOS somewhere. After Red Hat, actually, the CentOS has came in and started a community as a, taking the Red Hat operating system, offering it for free, by the way. There are many people who has done that. Like Oracle has done that. Oracle has been forking from Red Hat, and so taking it as, giving it as Oracle Linux. Now people are actually, so taking like this, because especially the Oracle copies the Red Hat and sells the Oracle Linux, telling Red Hat is bad. Okay, so that's where after acquisition of IBM, they recently changed the strategy of releasing the Red Hat, by the way. Now the CentOS, which is well known, by the way, so they are putting, I mean, they changed the license of Red Hat, and after that, even the CentOS also, they put it before Red Hat release. That means like the life cycle was little bit tuned. CentOS is given as a development project, and Red Hat is a final product. So that's where no one can copy Red Hat, is what their idea is, and that's how it is, and that's fine. That's history, but that's okay. But anything you talk about, any of this family, by the way, it's a Red Hat only. Say Red Hat only. Okay. So again, CentOS community itself has started a new project which is called as Rocky Linux also recently. Rocky Linux is also is a again a Red Hat operating system. All right. So Linux is, you can see this. Linux is a registered trademark of Linus Torvalds in the US and other countries. Red Hat and RHL and CentOS are the trademarks registered with Red Hat Inc. and its subsidiaries in the US. But we are not affiliated or endorsed or any sponsored by Red Hat, because CentOS was sponsoring by Red Hat. So they took the, like IBM has took the control or changed the licensing policy out of that. But they kept this as outside. But again, this is still copy of Red Hat only. Okay. So which is okay, so still fine. But whatever it is, you are learning a Red Hat family. Okay, you are going to learn a Red Hat. You are learning one OS of this, and you can deal with any of the other operating system. It is same copies only most of the time. So here and there, slight changes will be there. So that's how we are actually going to go for Red Hat Linux, and this is the Red Hat Linux one we are going to learn, by the way. Now in the Red Hat Linux, by the way, so Red Hat OS versions, Red Hat Linux. So OS versions, by the way, if I go in, so the OS versions, now these are the different versions which we are having. So RHL 9 is the latest version, RHEL, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, RHL 9 is the latest version. Okay, so this is the one. And whereas RHL 8 is there, and these guys actually already should be announcing some sort of a, they will offer some sort of a retirement date, by the way. And Red Hat 7 is also there. So 7 anyhow is retired, is completely retired. 8 and 9 is going on. So mostly they'll start announcing the retirement date. So here Red Hat Linux 8 retirement date. So it is mentioned as, so at least the old versions are getting retired. So that means 8.1 is actually of getting ended in 2023, which is already done. So now you can see this life cycle, by the way. So these are all the different life cycles. 8.10, whatever they have released, it is a major version till 2029. So seems to be they don't have a plan for next version. They're done here. So that's where the last version they're giving to a major extended support. Okay. Now, so whereas RHL 9, by the way, so is the major one right now, and currently it is going to support till 2032 also. So that's where RHL 9 is the latest one. So we'll be learning RHL 9 as the latest version. Okay, as that is available by the way. So, but you'll not find much differences between 8 and 9 as well. Okay, slight differences you will see, not majorly features. And this is how it is. So we are going to learn finally the Linux 9. I know I've been talking from past 30 minutes, but just little history. Okay, few more minutes, then we'll take up any questions we have. Now finally Red Hat 9 is there. So now this Red Hat 9 is again like, where I have to run and where I have to learn. Maybe many of you are new to Linux, but where I have to install this Linux. Windows means you take a laptop, install Windows, and you learn it. Red Hat means you have to install it somewhere and you have to learn it, isn't it? So that's where you have to learn it somewhere. I install it somewhere, and I would not prefer you to install in any of your laptops, desktops, and so burn your hardware to run this. By the way, so you have an alternatives, and we are going to use them. So what is the alternative that we are going to use it here is, so we are going to use AWS. Okay, this is our ultimate goal. We are going to take AWS and we are going to, so create servers in AWS and we're going to use that. But however, okay, many of you may not be having AWS accounts right away to start doing the job. Now, just for a couple of days, for 2-3 days of the initial sessions, we're going to go with something called as Killer Coda. Okay, so Killer Coda. So we are going to use it for, so this is from third day to end of training. We will use this. Okay. So for Killer Coda, we are going to use it for first 3 days. We are going to use here. So because here just on the web browser, killercoda.com. Okay, this is a platform, killercoda.com. This is the platform where you get a Linux for free, by the way. So they'll give you Linux over the browser. You can simply use that particular one. All right. So that's where we are going to use this. So for the first 3 days, we are going to use this. But after from the third day till end of the training, we'll use AWS. But in these 3 days, you should be ready with your account. Every one of you should be creating your AWS account and all. We'll share you the videos after today's session. We'll share you all the links and all. I will share you. Okay, we'll share with you. So you can go with that and start creating your own AWS accounts. If you already have AWS account, feel free to use the same account. And if you don't have AWS account, we are going to create one and we're going to use that. So that's where, so the first 3 days will not keep any effort on, okay, so where to run Linux and all, installing locally and things like that. We use Killer Coda, we start learning Linux, and then we go with the cloud and we take directly Linux and Linux machines in AWS and we'll use them directly. Okay, this is the plan. So this is where we are going to start with Killer Coda. So any questions on this before proceeding? So process is same. If you have any question, please raise your hand. I'll come to you in an order if you have any questions. Yeah, any questions, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi Ravi.
Yeah.
Good morning. Yeah, so I have a small question. Like you have said, now, like Unix is a combination of software and hardware, and later on when Linux has introduced, it is basically a layer between software and hardware. It is basically doing the task of detaching software from hardware, so that that particular OS software can be installed on any machine.
Correct.
So I have not worked that much, but I have experience in one of my projects. So there are some like commands are varies from like some commands are varies from Unix to Linux, and while working with the files, we usually have some special characters things in Unix. So, like why it is it's the same software we are using like for Linux as well, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. If my question is wrong. You have
So
to.
Linux is completely inspired from Unix. When that time
Mm,
actually they wanted to make an alternative to Unix, then they looked
mm,
in, okay, what is the best way we can do? And they thought like there is no need to reinvent everything. So Unix is already the best operating system. No one disagrees that Unix is not the best operating system. It's the best, but the problem is so the cost wise, okay, so that's where when the GNU has came into picture, what they have done is so they when they wanted to rewrite the things, by the way, so they have rewritten everything, or they inspired everything from Unix, and they have written rewritten everything. So that's where most of the commands you see in Unix is you'll find it out in Linux as well,
mm,
but those are not just copy, those are just rewritten everything and just took the same line and has done that.
mm. Okay, so it's not the same software. They have rewritten it. Okay, that's fine.
Rewritten. Yeah, maybe the name is same. LS means LS is
Mm,
same in Linux
mm,
and Unix, but the code is completely rewritten.
okay, okay, got it.
Yeah.
And the second question is like you will be helping us to set the monthly this uses for Amazon, right? Like uh, we need to set some limit or something in the portal, like when we are start using the Amazon this console.
So I think you should start thinking in a different way, by the way. So here you're
Mm-hmm.
joining for a real-time training where, so you can set the limits. I'm no denying that,
Mm-hmm.
but prevention is better than cure. Okay.
Ha 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 ha.
So first of all, you do the things consciously. Don't go
Mm-hmm.
unconsciously do the things.
Ha
Uh,
ha ha.
So, and also like, you do a big project here, so
Mm-hmm.
putting up the limits will, you yourself will be blocking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have to be keep an eye like open for everything.
Maybe I did not mention
Mm.
this particular point. So on an average, you guys need to spend around $30 per month to complete this training. Okay.
Mm.
So end of the day, you have to pay them.
So,
Yeah. Anything else?
no, that's it. Mine,
Yeah.
Yeah, Raghu. Um, Raghu, Linux and Unix both are same or different?
Different.
Different. What is the difference? Can you explain?
So it's a different thing, right? So how does it matter? It's a two vendors, by the way, giving operating systems.
Okay. Linux is completely based on commands, na? Unix is also based on commands only.
Yes, Unix is also commands.
Okay.
Any other questions?
yeah. So for practicing this unique Linux and this commands, and are we going to write some shell script or these things as well?
I don't know, like, so you're thinking too far, by the way. So here, practicing Linux, I just now mentioned we are going to use AWS from third day, but the
Mm-hmm.
first 3 days we are going to use Killer Coda.
No, as part of Linux, like, are we going to learn anything more about that? AWS, yeah, I got it, but mm,
Can
like
you
as
repeat your question once again?
yeah, I have a question. Like, suppose, yeah, like sometimes we have to write some shell script to do the automated thing in these things, right?
That's
When
okay.
we work,
Sometimes not only shell scripting, you have to do XYZ n number of things.
yeah. So, are we going to work on that as well?
No, you haven't checked the syllabus?
I checked it, but sorry if I missed it. So that's why I'm
Yeah,
asking.
please.
It's
Please check
not
the
there.
syllabus.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Raghu.
Yeah.
Did you provide end of the week give any assignment or any practical assessment give?
Every
Any
day is an
session?
assignment only. Whatever I do in my lab, by the way, I also bring a basic lab, that means scratch lab, and I'll start developing the things in my lab. Okay, and the same thing you should be replicating. You should understand that what I have done, and you should start replicating the same thing in your lab as well. Okay, that every day whatever I do is a task for you to do in your lab.
For practicing. It's not other than assessment lab, not like that. Just replicating the code, right?
This is not a, I don't go, I don't, I mean, I'm not a bookish guy, or I don't believe in that academic style of teaching. Okay, it's hands on. Make your hands dirty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Shall we move on? Any other questions? So let's stick to the topic. I mean, in the topic, whatever we have currently discussed, if you have any questions, you can go ahead. Otherwise, if I think a couple of questions came outside of the current context, so those particular things we can discuss maybe at the end, maybe after at the end before ending the session. So um, we'll talk. Okay, if you have any extra questions. So taking it as no.
So the killer coda is like it is implication of Amazon AWS service, which we are
Ah,
going to use for that like
no,
first
no.
3 days.
You just get Linux from them.
Okay, this one. Okay.
Right? So now this is a killer coda, and killer coda offer different certifications here, or not certifications, like, certain certification people actually use the platforms over here. Okay. So here I am also having my own courses. Just this is my URL. Anyhow, this URL will be shared with you after, I mean, after this today's session, by the way. So this URL can be shared with you. So here you have killer coda, and here is the two things that we are having. So Linux basics you have, Linux administration you have. So first 1 or 2 days we'll go with the Linux basics, and after from the third day we'll start learning about so like Linux administration thing. And end of the day, like, so we are actually going through some sort of a roadmap, by the way, roadmap.sh. So here whatever we are talking about, so we're actually aligning to here all the time. I mean, I'm always calling it out. So my content is completely inspired from here only. Okay. We're not keeping any separate brains to define the things, right? So that's where, so you have to, so deal with, operating system, like once you choose Red Hat or its derivatives, which is fine. Now you come to, you'll be learning these particular things. Okay. So to start with, by the way, so you're going to go with this one. So these are the utilities. So these are all some basics and administration things that will be covered here. All right. So we're going to start with the basic one, and we're going to go with the basic. So today we start with some Linux basics, understanding the things. Now this guy is actually asking, hey, you do sign in to access this. You can use any of this one. I may use simply Google, by the way. So if I click on Google, it just integrates with my Google, just to avoid you're a bot, you're a bot, or so you're a real person, something like that. So it just asks something, and ultimately it is going to do something, by the way. So just wait for 1 or 2 minutes. Don't worry about what is running here, because later you will come to know anyhow what is it actually doing it. Okay, you don't bother about what is happening here. So let it do some job it is doing. It is running some setup for us to deal with this. All right. So once you go inside this, you can start this course. Now Linux, by the way, so is a command line operating system. So you're going to see the CLI mostly, not the UI, by the way. Okay. So why CLI, but why not UI? Okay. So Windows, it's a happy path to use UI, but why not happening the same thing in the Linux, by the way? All right. Let's understand that particular part. Now, let's say to get a graphical UI, I mean, Linux is server operating system, first thing. Now, having a UI, ideally, there is no use because UI is for an end user to, so kind of graphically do that. But we are not using the servers for that particular purpose. So that is, it's anyhow not needed. But let's say, okay, technically also there are challenges that you go with that. Now the UI comes with a bulky software. Okay, if you want to enable UI in any operating system, let's say Windows also, Windows is always hanging, right? So it's well known for its hanging. Okay, I'm not sure nowadays how is it happening, but back in days it's well known for its hanging, by the way. So that's where a lot of professionals use Mac OS over Linux, by the way, for so avoid these hanging purposes and all. Like it can sustain. Okay, but Windows is a so not well known for professional load kind of a thing. So coming back anyhow, whatever it is, it has its own customers anyhow. Now to run that bulky UI, by the way, they require bulky hardware, isn't it? So now can you run the Windows fancy UI on 1 GB of RAM, 500 MB of RAM? I don't think so. I don't think so. Now today's whatever the UI you have, you can't run it in 1 GB, 1 GB hardware, by the way, 1 GB RAM hardware. You can't run that. I think it will not run even. Okay. It will tell that minimum I require 3 GB, 4 GB of RAM. Okay. In the prerequisites, it might fail. Okay. So now to run the bulky thing, so you require a bulky hardware. Okay, fine. I can provide the bulky hardware also. Now the second thing is that bulky UI comes with a bulky software or bulky software. Okay, bulk UI comes with a bulk software. That means a bunch of software I need to install on the server, by the way. Now the moment I try to install the many softwares on the server, by the way, then it comes to the operating cost. Okay, so then it comes is the operating cost. So that means you need to ensure you don't have like you always maintain the so bug fixes, patches, upgrades, all these things you have to take care of. Plus, the more software is always more risky. These servers actually face the live customers, like so desktop and all is just you just access it, but these servers are exposed to the outside world, internet world. They will be exposed. Now while your servers are exposed to the internet world, okay, so your server has to have a very 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 okay very less security issues. The more software, any software can cause the or any software can give the flexibility for a hacker to get onto the machine. You don't know, right? So that's where, okay, so we always be very careful what we install in the servers. Okay, whatever we want, we'll just not go and install just like that. All right, so we'll be very very careful, and that's where that carefulness will bring us, okay, not to install many softwares in the server. Okay, and command line, by the way, so your Linux operating systems can start even running from 10 MB. Okay, so that's how Linux can run. So that's where, like so very lightweight. Even you get a so you can serve hundreds of customers over the web application with a just 500 MB of RAM itself. Okay, so just for a 500 MB of RAM itself, you can serve hundreds of customers in parallel. So that's where, okay, so this is going to be always command line operating system. So we'll prefer to go with command line. So on the server side. And yeah, so it is command line. That is one thing. So you have to make your mind, it's command line. Okay. And trust me, by the way, maybe mark today, maybe sometime June 2024. I mean, if you are really, continuing your things, by the way, so for a long time, maybe 1 year, 2 year, beyond that, I mean, you become a DevOps engineer and you're still continuing the same thing. Now, one day you will realize, for sure you will realize Windows is the most difficult operating system you are dealing with. One day you'll realize, the realization will come. Okay, Windows is a very difficult operating system. Okay, so today you may not see that or feel it. Okay, it may feel like, I am typing commands, so many things. I can happily go and click on mouses and all. But trust me, once you become a professional, from a user perspective, you become a professional perspective. Okay, so you will know that Windows is the most difficult operating system. You have been doing it all the time. So Linux is so flexible, so comfortable. Okay, so scalable as well. That means like your work can be done in a much faster and efficient way. A simple example I can give. For an example, you want to make a change in a file. How do you do in Windows? You go on to find out that particular file, you double click and open it, search that particular line and go and change that. Linux also you have to do something, right? So that means you have to find a command to do that particular job. Fine. But now let's do the scaling. That means you have to do 10 changes in that file. Again, same thing. Like, so you had to so find those 10 lines and you have to make the changes in Windows. Linux also it's same. Like in a command, you have to tell, so 10 changes, whatever you want to make it. Now let's scale to a maximum number of files. Now let's say you want to do the same change on 100 files. Windows. Okay, whoever likes Windows, think about now. So now you have to change it on 100 files. Now how do you change it? You open 100 files. Take an hour, Linux. Now whatever you have developed for one file, the same thing can run for 100 files. Job done. In the same minute, in the same second, it will be done. So you don't have to keep a lot of effort. Okay. So that is how, okay, just a funny example, but think about, let's like that is a real example. And Linux is a solution here. So that is how, okay, one day you will get a realization that it is the difficult operating system you have been dealing with, which is Windows. Linux is so comfortable. All right, so that's what it is. And coming to the command line, by the way, usually you see a command prompt like this. In Windows also you have a command prompts, Windows command prompt and all, MS-DOS prompts. In that command prompt, okay, you're going to see the user which you logged in @ the system name. It is telling. I logged in a username called as root. Okay, in Windows you have something called as administrator. In Windows you have a user called as administrator. Here we're going to call it as a root user. All right. And the next one is Windows. The command prompt you're having is here the system name. By the way, every server is going to have a name and it is called as host name. Every server have a name and it is called as host name. That host name is also going to get shown over here. All right. So this is the command prompt. And so by seeing the command prompt, you will understand certain things. And this prompt can be customizable according to your needs, by the way. But however, by default, you are going to get like this. By default, you won't get these colors also. I just already enabled the color. Okay. I always enable the color on my prompt. If I am actually defining or designing a Linux box, by the way, I always ensure I'll give the colors, because otherwise it's going to be very difficult, by the way, to determine. Now, for an example, I open a new tab here where of course you will not get something. Now let's say I execute some commands. So you get so many things output, by the way. Now, where is the command? Where is the output? Where is the prompt? It's very difficult to track. Okay. So that is where, okay, I would always go with cat, let's say. Something I'm typing, that's okay. It's not matter. Now, how do you find, like in this black and white screen, where is your prompt? You spend a lot of time around finding out where is your prompt itself. Here is my prompt. Is it so determinable? So now let's say if I go here, okay, slash it is example I'm giving star, and now cat slash etc star. So for me, sorry. So for me, it is easy to identify which is output, which is a prompt. So because colors are helping me, correct? That is where I'm coming from. Okay, I don't want to, okay, so reduce the potential of the Linux machine. Okay, so it just comes with the default things. Okay, expecting you to customize, and you would be customizing it. But a lot of people will not do that. Okay, that's a different story. But however, I always do this. Usually, if I define my prompt, it has to be a colored prompt at least. I take care of colored prompt because easy for me to identify, because I'm executing continuously the commands. I need to identify which is command, which is output. I need some differentiation. I'm a human being. Okay, I can colors can bring me an attention. Okay, I want to just utilize that. As simple as that. Okay, so by default you may not get it. So here is what I just already enabled. Likewise, it can be customizable. That's okay. So this is what it is. Now all the time what you are going to do is in the command line syntax. Here is a command line. Now here you are going to execute some commands, by the way. Okay, so you are executing some commands. Now what you are going to learn is, it's a command. You are going to learn something. If you want to drink water in Linux also, it's a command. It's like that only. Like everything is a command. You should know about those commands. Now on an average around 50 commands will come into the picture for this particular training, the whole DevOps training. I think it is easy to remember, maybe a 3 months, 3.5 months of the training. Remembering 50 commands is not that difficult if you really pay attention and focus and putting interest, by the way. So 50 commands is not difficult to do that. Beyond 50, I don't think so every day you need to do that. And today you're in an internet world, by the way. You have some requirement, at least you go and find out in the internet. Okay, so I want to find some files. Like let's say I want to find some files. I don't know the command. I want to find files in Linux. At least you should be able to search what you want, by the way. So then you start getting the answers. So there's a hell lot of data which is available in the market. Okay, you will find out the ways to do that. Okay, so then they're telling find command in Linux will help you. So some options, some examples, go through them, understand them, read them, and you will be able to do that. Okay. So that's how okay, we are going to have some commands. You will be learning commands, and some commands you may need to, you will remember anyhow, because day by day, every day you are executing the same commands, you will remember. And some commands come occasionally. Probably if you recall, it's better, or else start internet and start reading about or getting the information from the internet. Now these commands actually is going to have some options also. Now the commands, whatever you executed so far, may have some options. Based on the options, the behavior will change. So uname is the command I'm executing, but whereas uname -a, it is giving me some information. Uname -r, it is giving me some information. So why I'm getting different things, or basically how is it happening, is because of the different options you are getting. So uname purpose is to do something, and its behavior can be changed with some of the options. Okay, and these particular options you can find it out in internet. Okay, I would suggest you to start using internet only. Like let's say a manual, or let's say man, I will call it up. Basically manual pages of uname. You search with that man uname or any command, by the way. So then you start getting the help page, by the way, what all the options you have. So all is expected is reading. Okay. So you start reading based on your requirement. You need to understand your requirement, and based on the requirement, you need to find out the command, and the command might require some option. You need to find the appropriate option. Okay, we may go through some commands and most widely used options, but there may be other options all the time. So at least you understand, if you understand how to use them. Like using is very simple, by the way, but what is the functionality of them, to start reading it. Reading is the very important aspect, by the way, for I mean, for working in this, especially in the engineering world, you have to start reading, okay, reading the errors, reading the messages, okay. So system messages, reading the errors, I mean, reading about the commands. You have to do the things consciously, okay. You're going to deal with the live machines. You're going to deal with live machines, by the way. Okay, so that means any mistake happen on the live server will bring the server down and may impact the end user. Okay, it may impact the business, your revenue. Okay, it's directly proportional to your revenue, by the way. So that's where, okay, so you have to be very, very careful. Right? So this is how so this is how you're going to have some options. And not only options, by the way, you will find out some commands also with some inputs, by the way. Now, if I want to add a user, I have to provide an input that, what user I have to add it. If I want to remove a file, I have to add an input, what file to remove. Inputs also will be there. So the commands may or may not have inputs, may or may not have, options, by the way. It all depends upon your requirement. You understand the requirement, and based on that, you have to think like whether the input is needed, not needed, and things like that. Okay, so that's how we are going to deal with commands, and the commands will be having some options and some inputs. Going forward, when we actually start with the commands, then probably you'll understand the things. That's where we're going to start with commands. The first command starts maybe the direct structure. So, and then the first command will start, by the way. So maybe from here, I can take it up tomorrow practically, by the way. So that the practical things will start. So for today, this is the history, by the way. So just to recall, we are going to do this particular things. We ended up with going with learning Red Hat 9, and Red Hat 9, we are going to start with killer coda for the first 3 days and AWS. So that means every one of you need to create your AWS account. Okay. So since I have some time, let me just deal with this. Just give me a minute. Let me add all these particular links in some place. Let me provide those links. All right. Okay. I'm just going to add the information here, and I'll add this. Okay. Yeah. And I'll also share this diagram also. All right. If this URL, if I change with you guys, you should be able to. You should be able to see the thing. So the mirror link, if you open, you will see this, mind map, whatever we are writing. And this is same across the training, by the way. We'll write a lot of, we'll develop a lot of mind map. And how do you sign up with AWS is given here. And how way to sign up is a link also given here. And once after you sign up, your login page of AWS is here. And the killer quota is also here. Okay. So these are all the links, and I'm right now keeping it in the chat if you want to right now. But anyhow, after the session, we are going to send you over, send you these particular details. Okay. So maybe that's all from my side for today. So any questions, by the way, please go ahead. Anything related to today's topic or even anything related to the training program also can go ahead, by the way. You have to click on raise hand and I can answer.
Hello. Hi, Raghu. Good morning.
Yes.
Raghu, I was hearing from my friend, like, is an Azure DevOps is an important or AWS DevOps should be an important? Which was in a boom, Raghu?
Are you talking about Azure DevOps or Azure Cloud?
Azure DevOps.
Not Azure Cloud, right?
Yeah.
Azure DevOps is just a tool, by the way.
Okay.
So there is no such thing called as AWS DevOps. Azure DevOps is a product. Now you can see this in the roadmap.sh.
Yeah.
Even here, by the way. So the CI/CD tools, Azure DevOps is a ADO, we call it up. So this is just one. And this is not so important by the way. Why? Because the product retirement is already announced 2027 by end of 2027, by the way. So this product is retiring. That means no Azure DevOps anymore. So they're replacing that with GitHub Actions. Microsoft owns GitHub and they're pushing more towards GitHub, by the way, for AI and other selling they're doing, by the way. So they are decoming the Azure DevOps. So wherever you heard, by the way, they're not updated and told you the updated information.
Okay, Raghu. Thanks.
Any other questions? Anything related to the program also, you can go ahead. Yes, Ramya.
Sir, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I'm able to hear.
Sir, I don't have any laptops. If I want to buy a laptop, which laptop I have to buy?
Any basic one is fine.
Anything, it can run in anything, sir?
Yes.
Okay. For example, Dell or HP.
Any basic.
Okay.
Hello,
Yeah.
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, hi, Raghu. My question was I was going through the AWS syllabus, and I didn't see, uh, uh, AWS migration project in the syllabus because this is too much asked these days in the interviews.
No, we are dealing with a greenfield project. Okay. So that's where that means the things will start from AWS, in AWS directly.
No, but do we cover AWS migration project in that?
See, migration, I don't think so. You have a concept of migration. There is I'm not sure. Have you really went through and asking, or generally you're asking?
No, because in HCL and Wipro, the other companies my friends are working, and this is the common question. If you say we haven't worked on AWS migration project, they'll check you out.
Yeah. Don't just go with the. Your question is right, by the way, but the opinion is wrong. So there is a 5R policy. Okay. So for the lift and shift. whatever you're talking about. Okay, so the cloud migration, you're asking this one only, right? Now there is a 5-hour strategy, by the way. If you really read the strategy, so now, okay, so there is no such thing called as migration other than the data which is needed. And so that also goes with a lot of clauses that really we need to do that and all also will come into picture. So it will migration project. I mean, the project name can call it as migration. Now let's say I'm working in a bank, by the way. Now they are migrating to cloud. I'm also working in a migration project, but that's not a migration, by the way. Okay. For a company business, for a business person, why they are spending the amount on cloud? For them, the layer is migration, but technically talking, it's not a migration. That's what you need to understand. It's going to be a greenfield only.
No, but if companies say they have their servers hosted on VMware, vSphere, and they want to switch to cloud, so won't you call it as
There is no such tech exists. There is no such tech exists, by the way. So there is no, okay, your on-prem VM goes down, spin up a VM on the cloud. There is no such tech exists.
No, but if the client says, see, we're running a servers on a VMware and we want this to switch to Azure or AWS or any other cloud provider, so we need to provide them solution.
That's a greenfield only. I mean, now not like, all the VMs you lift and shift to cloud. You don't do that. Okay. So no one would do that. You can do that, but that means like, taking a cycle on a big lorry, something like that. It will not help you. Okay. You have to reprovision everything on the cloud side. So that's actually we're talking about the 5-hour strategies on the lift and shift method, which is again a greenfield only. But what you are doing is migration means that's what I'm telling. You go 10,000 feet, actually, it looks like a migration only. For a business person, it is a migration only, right? What he will say, I'm migrating from on-prem to cloud. But technically, if you come down onto the ground, they're not really migrating, by the way. So what they are doing, they are bringing up the new virtual machines on Azure, and they are putting that application inside these new machines. And the traffic one day will be migrated to this particular place. That you don't call it as a technical migration, process-wise migration. Yes. I hope I answered you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Now, do you have any cross question on that or additional question on that?
I'll check with my friend again.
Yeah, please.
I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
Hi, Raghu. Just to, I have a cross question on what Rohit has asked. So when you're talking about migration, basically the server itself is not moving. You provision a server on cloud, and just the data gets migrated from on-prem to cloud. Is that what you meant to say?
No, database also migration is a very big thing, by the way. So your Amazon billing on data is huge. Now, let's say you have 5 petabytes of data, and do you think of migrating to AWS? No one will provide a solution to the client as yes, by the way, because that will cost you more than your data center cost. Okay. So data migrations also will not happen, but there is a hybrid cloud comes into picture in this strategy. And again, depends, by the way, like, so this this is a generalized statement only, not a specific solution. Specifics may be changing on a general, by the way. So what you can also do here is, okay, so your traffic compute side will be on the cloud side, but the data for data transfer, you still, for data related things, you still redirect your traffic to the on-prem, by the way. Okay. So that is how we started. And we kind of think about, so how to replicate the replicas. And there is this service will come into picture. I mean, there's, if you want to shift the data, by the way, you don't actually just simply copy like that. You have AWS, so data copy device. Okay. So there is a device, actually, offline transfer data, Snowball. So the Snowball comes into picture. So then you have to copy all the data offline into this particular device. It ships physically to that there, and you have to copy there, by the way. So that is something, if is a huge data transfer, which will come into picture. But otherwise, okay, so there are a lot of scenarios would come into picture. We need to understand the application. Now, let's say when you're doing a lift and shift also, now let's say it's an enterprise organization, Now, how can you lift and shift? Like, so they are having 1,000 microservices. Over the night, can you do a lift and shift? Or over the night, can you switch the traffic to that remote place after building everything? There's a lot of strategies might come into picture. So we need to understand more of the specifics of the application before solutionizing it. General answers may be like someone asked, maybe his friend told, maybe for specifics, if I talk about whatever his friend mentioned, may be right, by the way. But looking in generalized way, it doesn't looks right. But maybe for that project, it is really working. Whatever they're doing, lift and shifting, migration, maybe they're doing a real migration. Who knows? Okay, so, but that's where, like, so generally talking about data migration is a little tricky, because companies, organizations, if you go in, you'll find out terabytes of data, petabytes of data. So changing that or migrating that to cloud, no one would do that. So such jobs, actually dealing with such jobs, they still stick to the on-prem. Now, what are the things that you require scaling for your business application, they put it on the cloud, by the way. So that's where no one discards the things on the data, the data center hardware and whatever you have. We don't actually completely do the migration. I also work in enterprise, consulting firm. I never seen this use case, like, so companies just discarding their data centers and going into the cloud. So far, I did not encounter such scenario. They will still run them. So they need a backup plan for sure. I think this is too extra to
Understood.
talk about. Forget about this.
Right.
Actually,
Yeah, correct.
let's understand what we have. So we are going to do a greenfield project for the actual question. We're going to do a greenfield project, assuming the project is starting from the cloud only.
Understood. This went a little bit off topic. I was just curious, so I asked. Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, that's okay. I think time up as well. All right, cool. So let's meet in tomorrow then, and we'll continue. Okay, thank you. Bye. Good day. Good night.